He came into this world weak as hell. But once the strongest SS rank mage took him in, things changed. The kid had nothing going for him but pure grit. Went through brutal training day and night. Body pushed to the edge, but willpower never broke. Years went by and the same boy who couldn't even cast a basic spell turned into someone you don't want to mess with. Not even his master knew it. But buried deep inside him was a dark magic strong enough to flip the whole damn world upside down. A kind of power that stuns anyone who sees it. It kicks off in a wrecked city, where this woman spots a boy named Lloyd just standing there, staring at something. We don't know what he's looking at yet, but she sees something in him. She figures if this kid joins her, she might have a shot at taking down the demon lord. Without holding back, she pulls him in for a hug, while he's still standing there spaced out. Not long after that, she takes him back to her place and casually shows him some fire magic flames shooting straight out of her hand. Lloyd's eyes go wide. This is the first time he's seen anything like it. But the woman doesn't wait around for awe. She tells him flat out to do the same, or he's not eating that night. He doesn't have a clue what he's doing, no instructions, no idea how magic even works, but he gives it a shot. By the time the day ends, the kid somehow manages to summon a small flame. She's a little impressed, but not nearly enough. Instead of praise, she lights him up in flames, reminding him that he's still got a long road ahead. The next day, she teaches him how to pull water out of the ground with a kick. First try, Lloyd nails the move, but all he gets is wet dirt. She's not impressed and punishes him by soaking him completely. She throws wind magic into the mix too, and as the training keeps going, within just a few months, Lloyd's already pulling off ice magic like a pro dude, makes a full ice statue that looks exactly like her. Lloyd, thinking he's finally earned some respect, starts calling her his master, but she still ain't satisfied. She thinks he's still weak, so to prove how far he's got to go, she makes the statue grab him with magic, then grows it bigger before smashing it to bits. Seeing the power difference firsthand, Lloyd decides to push even harder, doubling down on his training without taking breaks. Then one day, she drinks too much and ends up sick as hell. Lloyd walks up and heals her in a flash. Turns out, she even taught him healing magic somewhere along the way. She gives him a hug for that, but then goes right back to her usual self, saying it still ain't enough, and sends him off for more training. After months of non-stop training, Lloyd's master is sitting with a grimoire in her hands, looking uneasy. Something in that book's clearly bothering her, and before she can even process it, Lloyd walks into the room. The grimoire slips right out of her hands, and when he picks it up to give it back, something triggers the moment he touches it. His body drops instantly. Kid faints on the spot. That's when she realizes Lloyd's got the potential to be one of the chosen two. The way she mutters it sounds like she's a chosen one herself, though it's not crystal clear. Either way, she doesn't want him ending up like her. She's seen what overconfidence can do, so while he's knocked out, she kisses his forehead and slips a spell on him, one that probably keeps his powers in check. Next morning, she brings up something new, calls him a white mage, says that kind of mage focuses on helpful magic, stuff that benefits others. To get him started, she tells him to use his healing magic on an apple tree to grow a bigger apple. He does it, and it works, but then she casually shows off and makes the whole tree pop with apples like it's nothing. Later that night during their lesson, Lloyd gets curious about something called ancient magic. Soon as he brings it up, his master shuts it down, tells him that kind of magic disappeared ages ago and he doesn't need to bother with it. Instead, she keeps him moving forward, teaching him advanced stuff like space magic, basically the power to summon or unsummon items anytime you want. Training picks up speed, and one day she decides it's time to really push him. She blindfolds the kid, dumps him deep in some forest full of monsters, hands him a tiny kitchen knife, and tells him to survive for a whole week using magic alone. Then, with zero hesitation, she vanishes in a flash, leaving Lloyd behind terrified and lost. A few seconds later, a wolf monster shows up, charging straight at him. Lloyd panics and runs for his life, eventually scrambling up a tall tree to catch his breath. While catching his nerves, he uses space detection and manages to locate his master's house far to the north, so he sets off on foot. When night hits, he uses healing magic on wild fruit to ripen it and eats that for dinner. He finds a cave to hide in and starts thinking of ways to boost himself. That's when he comes up with something smart. He takes the spells he already knows and tweaks them to raise his physical stats when he casts them. One by one, he starts building his magic up from scratch. The next morning, while walking through the woods, Lloyd accidentally wanders right into a queen spider's nest. Soon as that massive thing lunges at him, he turns and bolts the other way. With one of his modified spells, he kicks his speed up like crazy 10 times faster at least. In a single blur of a sprint, he makes it all the way back to his master's doorstep, then drops right there, out cold. She opens the door and sees him lying flat, and with a small grin, just says welcome home. Time goes by, and Lloyd starts growing taller. His master gives him a little more freedom to roam around the house, and one day while cleaning up her study, he finds a book about cities. The idea catches his attention since he's never been anywhere with that many people before. Meanwhile, his master's been getting creative, testing all sorts of weird stuff, and using him as her personal test dummy. Kid barely gets any real sleep for days. One morning, she wakes up like usual and heads up to the rooftop, planning to beat some magic into him again. But when she steps inside, Lloyd's not there. She glances around and notices the last thing he was doing reading that same book about cities. Her expression shifts for a second. Turns out, Lloyd's already made his way into town. He walks through the streets wide-eyed, amazed by how packed and noisy everything is. This is his first time seeing a place like this, so it's all new. He grabs a loaf of bread from a stall, but once he pays, he realizes he's completely broke, not even a single coin left. That's when a recruitment flyer for adventurers floats through the air and smacks him in the face. And he figures that might just be his shot. He heads off to sign up right away, not noticing the strange man watching him from the shadows with clear interest in his every move. Lloyd joins a new adventurers party, and not long after, they're heading up to the castle rooftop to take down a giant cyclops. Alan, the party leader, gets slammed and yells for Sheena, the healer, to patch him up. But just before she casts her spell, Lloyd drops one of his upgraded buff spells without saying a word. Suddenly, everyone starts feeling unstoppable. The archer nails the cyclops right in the eye, and the knight takes a punch straight on but holds her ground, surprised by how easy it was to block. Alan doesn't think twice, charges up, and takes the beast out in one clean hit. He's fully convinced he pulled it off with raw talent, but the knight glances at Lloyd and starts putting 2 and 2 together, like she knows something just doesn't add up. Now that the cyclops is down, the crew rides back into town, and Alan's getting the royal treatment. Folks can't stop cheering his name like he's some kind of legend, all because no one else had been able to take down the cyclops of Abaddon Castle. The reward for the job turns out to be massive, but when it's time to split the cash, Alan tosses Lloyd 5 measly coins, saying that's all he gets since he's just a rookie D-rank adventurer. Lloyd takes the money without saying a word. When Alan suggests they toast to their victory, Lloyd politely dips out, saying alcohol's not his thing. That rubs the party's mage the wrong way. She gets all dramatic about him ditching the celebration. But Alan shrugs it off and says no big deal. They can always find another white mage if needed. And it's not like Lloyd did anything worth bragging about in the first place. Lloyd hears it all, but doesn't react. He closes the door behind him and walks away, calm as ever. Meanwhile, back at Merlin's house, the same guy who'd been tailing Lloyd earlier shows up. She calls him Willie and asks if there's any news. He tells her Lloyd made it to town and even joined the hero party. Merlin looks relieved, almost proud. She figured it was about time the kid stepped into the world on his own. As long as he doesn't end up cocky like she was back in the day, he'll be alright. Willie looks at her and asks if she still regrets what went down that day. Her face tightens, a flicker of guilt slipping through, and she remembers it clear as day. Back then, the Demon Lord was ready to blow himself up just to get his hands on that damn magic book. Merlin never saw it coming, and the explosion wiped out an entire village. Nobody stood a chance, including her. But somehow, Sybil, one of her teammates, pulled off a miracle with ancient magic and brought everyone back. Everyone but himself. He gave his life to fix what she couldn't, and that guilt's been hanging over her head ever since. Back on Lloyd's side, he's still with the hero party. Every time they're close to getting wrecked in a fight, he drops a clean buff on them, keeping the team running smooth like clockwork. Thanks to him, they're practically unbeatable, but nobody knows he's the reason they're cruising through every battle. Later that night, Rena's up reading about defense stats when Alan walks into her room. She tells him she's been wondering about something lately. The monster hits don't feel as hard on her shield, and she's not sure why. Alan says he's been feeling stronger too, figures it's just raw talent kicking in. But Rena shoots him a look and reminds him he hasn't trained in days, so whatever's going on, it's definitely not him leveling up on his own. At the same time, deep in the woods that night, a couple guards are finishing up their patrol when one of them suddenly screams in pain. His partner looks over and sees this massive golem towering above them, and in that split second, it hits him he's about to get killed doing a job that barely pays enough for lunch. By the next morning, the guard captain is already talking to Alan, asking for his help. Turns out the guys on patrol were killed in a brutal way, and they're guessing a golem was behind it. Alan, being Alan, says he'll take care of it. He figures a golem's no big deal. Later on, they head out to where it happened. Thanks to Lloyd's tracking magic, they manage to find the golem hiding out in a cave behind a waterfall. Since Lloyd's keeping everyone boosted, the whole team takes it down without breaking a sweat. But right after that, a demon shows up nearby and summons another one using rocks from the ceiling. Lloyd looks closer and notices the demon's using a staff with a magic stone embedded in it. That's a big red flag. Magic stones are bad news. He knows they gotta shut this down fast, so he buffs Lulu's accuracy and tells her to shoot the demon. She hesitates since the demon's behind a wall, but she fires anyway, and somehow the arrow lands. Then Lloyd tells Maya to teleport the staff to him, and once it's in his hands, he seals its magic right away. Alan's already fuming. He doesn't like being bossed around, especially not by the guy he thinks should be following orders. Trying to show who's in charge, he rushes forward, aiming to land the final hit on the golem. Lloyd sees it coming and knows Alan's about to get his head crushed, so he kicks in a speed spell and dives in, shoving Alan out of harm's way. But instead of a thanks, Alan snaps at him for getting in the way. He finishes off the golem himself, acting like he did it all solo. Back in town, he straight up kicks Lloyd out of the party, saying he's had enough of his attitude and claiming he's been useless the whole time. And after all those years hearing Merlin say he wasn't good enough, Lloyd starts to believe it. He doesn't argue, he just walks away quietly. The next few days are rough. Lloyd tries to find a new party, but no one's looking for a white mage, and most teams are already full. Things start to look hopeless until a girl named Yui rushes into the guild, needing a white mage fast. The receptionist points at Lloyd, and Yui turns to him, asks if he's not with anyone. When he says yes, she grabs his arm without wasting a second and takes off running with him like her life depends on it. A short time back, Lloyd was still dragging his feet around the city, head down and soul crushed after getting kicked out of the party by Alan. He kept hearing Alan's words echo in his head, saying he was nothing but dead weight. All he ever did was hide behind the others and toss out a few heals, and even Sheena could do a better job than that. Lloyd had asked if Alan seriously thought he was that useless, but Alan didn't even answer, just told him to believe whatever and get lost. As he walked off, the girls in the group didn't bother hiding how happy they were to see him gone. They were all smiles welcoming Rena. Throwing shade like Lloyd was some kind of joke they finally got rid of. Eventually, Lloyd made his way to the center of town and found himself staring up at a fountain. The statue on top looked exactly like his master, and that hit him right in the gut. He missed her, missed being trained, missed mattering to someone. Meanwhile, a different squad of adventurers was heading out to take down a bandit stronghold. This was no casual mission either, it was ranked A, so they had to keep it tight. Clum, the ginger in the group, looked off her game, distracted by something and clearly not feeling it. Still, once the battle kicked off, they went in hard before the bandits could even react. Silica, the mage, stepped up first, chanting loud as hell to prep her spell. One of the smarter bandits noticed and told his crew to wait it out till she was drained, then rush them. That was the plan, but they didn't count on Cross having her back. From way off, he fired a shot so clean it ran through a bunch of them at once. Their party was no joke. Yui, the sword fighter leading the team, held her own with no problem, even when she slipped. Dagaz, the big guy with a shield, was there to cover her. Clum came through too, casting a buff that jacked up Dagaz's strength, letting him smash through the front line like a beast. The bandit boss saw the tide turn and tried to make a break for it, but Yui was already in his face. She told him to stand down and not make it worse. He yelled at her to explain who the hell they were and why they stormed the place. But then he spotted the golden pendant on her chest. His face changed quick, he knew what that meant. She wasn't just tough, she was S-rank. Every single one of them was, which meant they weren't just here for a job, they were the kind of folks everybody respected and paid attention to. The boss bandit pulls out his final move, thinking that even if this crew's S-rank, there's no way they can handle what he's about to drop. He slams his staff to the ground and fires off a summoning spell, bringing up a massive golem straight from the earth. This thing's built to resist magic, which knocks Silica and Clum out of the fight completely. Even Cross knows his arrows won't do much against that kind of tank, so that leaves just Dagaz and Yui to go toe-to-toe with it. Yui doesn't flinch. As team leader, she steps up and hits the golem head-on, slashing with full power. But the thing doesn't even blink. It tanks the hit like she tapped it with a stick. She yells for Clum to give her that power up, but Clum's out of it again, totally zoned out. Yui has to scream at her before she finally reacts and casts the buff. That one spell kicks Yui's strength into overdrive, and with that boost, she cleaves the golem clean in half like it was made of paper. With the job wrapped up, they round up all the bandits, including their boss. Afterward, Yui pulls Clum aside for a talk. Clum straight up apologizes for blanking out and says she's not cut out to be an adventurer anymore. Yui gets it though. She knows Clum's mind's been on her sister Sylvie, and she asks how Sylvie's doing these days. But before Clum can even answer, the scene cuts to Lloyd again. It's been 3 days, and the poor guy still hasn't found a new party. He's posted up near the guild counter when someone starts yelling about needing a white mage. Turns out, it's Yui. Lloyd doesn't waste a second. He steps up and tells her he's a white mage, and Yui doesn't even ask for his rank. She grabs his wrist and drags him straight to her crew's base. Once there, she introduces him like he's already part of the team, even though he hasn't said yes. Her squad catches on quick they've seen her do this before. Cross breaks it down for him, saying they've got a high priority mission and no time to replace Clum properly. They need someone fast. Nobody thinks Lloyd's the right pick, and truth be told, neither does Lloyd, especially after realizing this group's full of S-rank adventurers. Even though Lloyd's already given up on himself, Yui hasn't, and she straight up demands he show them what he can do. He's convinced he's gonna disappoint them, but decides to try anyway. First thing he does is pull a staff out using storage magic, and that alone makes everyone raise an eyebrow. Then, without chanting a word, he hits the whole squad with a physical boost. They don't feel much at first, but Yui swings her sword just to test it and slices through a tree like it's made of foam, leaving everybody wide-eyed. Lloyd casually explains that he didn't just cast one buff, he stacked 5 enhancement spells on top of each other, which is why Yui's power skyrocketed. That's enough to shut down any doubts they had. Clum's magic doesn't even come close to that level, but Lloyd still seems clueless about how insane his magic really is. He admits he used that many layers because he figured if he only did one, it wouldn't be enough for a top-tier team like theirs. He thought it'd come off as weak, and he wanted to make a good impression. Judging by their stunned faces, though, he assumes it flopped and what he did was average at best. Getting talked down to for too long can wreck a person, and right now Lloyd's confidence is in the gutter. He figures they weren't impressed and says he doesn't want to slow them down, so he turns around and starts walking off. For a second, nobody says a word, still trying to process what just happened. But Yui snaps out of it and yells his name loud enough to shake the place. He stops and walks back, just to see what she wants. That's when he opens up. He tells them where he came from and how the hero's team kicked him out for being useless. Yui's shocked he was ever part of that crew, but Lloyd downplays it. He says they don't need to be impressed and suggests they stick with their old white mage, instead it'd probably be better for all of them. They start telling him about Clum, how solid she is and how she used to run with them. But her sister Sylvie's been sick. Even while adventuring, Clum still looked after her, but lately she's been drained, and it's messing with her focus. Last time they fought, she zoned out and nearly got them all killed. Nobody blamed her, and they were fine keeping her around, but she got so anxious about being a burden that she walked away. Normally they can handle quests without a white mage, but when it comes to rank jobs, it's a different game. Clum wasn't just useful, she was family. Yui says she's been worried sick, and the rest of the team agrees. Lloyd sees how much they care and starts thinking maybe they saw her more as a sister than just a teammate. When they say yeah, he realizes how lucky she is to have folks like that, especially after what he's been through. He asks what kind of sickness Sylvie has and learns she's turning into a damn magic stone. That hits a nerve. He remembers reading something with his master about magic stones and asking if it was reversible. She said it was. That gives him a little hope, so he asks Yui to take him to Clum's place. They get to her house, she opens the door, and they sit down to talk. He asks her more about Sylvie's condition. Clum explains that both she and her sister used to take missions together, but on one of them, Sylvie got hurt. She wasn't there when it happened, just found her injured. Lloyd asks exactly how it started, and instead of explaining, Clum decides to show him. She takes them to Sylvie's room. As soon as the door opens, Lloyd feels the heavy magic pressure flooding out. Clum walks in and lifts the blanket. Sylvie's legs and hands are already stone. She says it's creeping through her body, little by little. Lloyd quietly tells her he thinks he can heal her. Clum doesn't buy it. She already tried every top-tier mage she could find, and none of them had answers. So she figures some random white mage won't either. But then Lloyd asks if the injury happened inside a cave, and Clum freezes before nodding. He checks the area where the transformation started and confirms what he suspected: the magic that hit her is still active, and it's slowly taking over her body. Clum's still unsure, but Lloyd says his master once told him this method could work. Yui backs him up, asking Clum to trust him, so she gives him the green light. He grabs his staff and starts casting a powerful spell that drains his energy fast. He explains that this magic is meant to calm down the storm of power building up inside Sylvie's body. That overflow is what's turning her to stone, so if he can suppress it, she might recover. Right after that, he hits her with a healing spell. Clum stares, wide-eyed, telling him this ain't some basic healing magic. He admits it's different, eats up way more mana than usual, but still insists it's just a normal healing spell. Yui turns to Clum and asks what she really thinks, and Clum can't lie, it's nothing close to ordinary. The wild part is that Lloyd's casting 2 spells at once and still holding it together like it's no big deal. Yui points out something even crazier: Sylvie's body is starting to return to normal. Clum rushes to grab her sister's hand as Sylvie slowly turns back to flesh. Everyone's stunned, then joy kicks in. Clum's overwhelmed with gratitude, but tells them she can't rejoin the party. Once Sylvie's better, they're going to hit the road together. She offers to treat them later to say thanks. She looks at Lloyd and says she knows they're in good hands with him, but he just shrugs and says he's not officially one of them yet, and that throws her off. He still doesn't see his worth. Later that night, they all head out for dinner. Yui brags about the insane magic Lloyd pulled and how Sylvie came back from the edge. Even with all the praise, Lloyd still feels like he's not enough, and that makes Yui cut in and tell him to quit being humble. He did something incredible, but he keeps brushing it off like it's nothing. He even apologizes for not convincing Clum to return. But that's not on their minds right now. They're here to celebrate, not stress. Talk shifts to what the future might look like, and Lloyd starts comparing how he used to feel with the Heroes team to how he feels now. That's when he speaks up and says he wants in. The group freezes for a second, caught off guard since he turned them down earlier, but then they smile. Turns out they were hoping for this moment. Now he's officially one of them. Thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, it makes all the difference.